Right. Coach Helen for YouFit Studio. And YouFit Studio Online. I should just call it that as well right now. Have I mentioned we're online? Right. Strategies and not tactics. Okay. I've talked about this before a little bit, and why would I be doing it again? I think you just joined. Hi. Why we're doing it again? Because there's a huge difference between the two, between strategies and tactics, and deploying one or the other right now will, from experience of working with clients last year through multiple different tiers / lockdowns / less than ever left / all that business, right? Definitely saw the use and use of both going on from different situations with different clients, with some or little success, right? So what's good is to understand what, probably as I go through, is what some of these look like in terms of examples, what I mean by a strategy or a tactic, and why it'd be important to look at one over the other in this period of time while we're all back in the old homes. Cheers. It's not gin. Before somebody says this thing, it's just in a gin-like flask. Great gift, this, isn't it? Gift from a client, look at that. Loved it. My third one today. Clearly works. If I pretend it's gin, first strategy for lockdown, pretend it's gin and get a massive hip flask. Second strategy, not really. Okay, it's important to know the difference, right, between the two, because one is more successful than the other, which I'll go into. And again, I'll use potentially some examples of where people have deduced the strategies were the way forward over tactics, because tactics might have gone to pot, right? So they make a huge difference to goals. Okay, so using a strategy or a tactic will have a huge difference over the success of your goals, right? So what is the difference, you may ask? What's the difference? I will tell you what the difference is. Okay, strategy is a plan. I've talked about strategies before. The best way I've heard it described, when it was like that, doing my eyebrows, described as by the big man, Tony Robbins, describes a strategy as a stages of steps, almost like a recipe to create a meal, right? So this is how he describes it. So you want an outcome that is beneficial with everything working together, and therefore a strategy is a step of stages or parts of the recipe that you need to follow to make sure you have the outcome you're looking for, and not burn your stuff to crap or make it taste like rubbish, right? Essentially. They can be, right? So strategies can be quite complex, or they can take a lot of thought or insight to get it right or get it going, okay? Whereas opposed to, right, if we're looking at a tactic is a very in the moment situation, right? So it's very reactive, not proactive. So very much like this, right, I'm going to do this. There isn't kind of a consequence assessment. There isn't much thought process going into it. It's just very much like, I need to get something done now. Now, I was going to go in, like, original plan, I was going to talk about some food stuff. If you're talking about, in terms of dealing with lockdown, for example, or with this lockdown, a tactic might be, that I've seen before, this is legitimately true from a mindset point of view, a tactic might be, do you know what, I've just thought I'm going to watch all those box sets because that'll keep my mind busy. Okay, that's a very quick tactic that I will have heard from clients consistently over the last year, probably, right? So if that's a tactic, is really like reactive, right, I'm going to watch some box sets. What would be to do with mindset, by the way? So what would be a strategic version of that? So strategic version, that would be actually, do you know what, I've got some free time where I can set the kids up for teaching. I'm not due on work for half an hour. I can use that time to either go outside and get some air, just literally breathe, or I can use that to meditate, whatever, in the same version of, or I can find some time to just literally do part of a class, right? And what I'm going to need to do is ensure that I look ahead at the kids' timetable, make sure that it sits nicely, and if I have to do a catch-up, I'll do that. So that's a strategy, because that strategy can be used long-term, past the point of an instant gratification, and also has lots of different stages and steps, and is quite complex, as opposed to, do you know what, I need to relax, so I'm going to watch some Netflix. That's very tactical, because it's very short-term, It doesn't involve much thought process, literally and figuratively, and only has a very quick and punchy kind of success, right? The strategy is always going to be higher level, right? It has multiple levels to it. Now, let's get real. So we're looking at March, whatever, sometime in March, okay? So anything that we try to put into place now at this point in January has to be strategic. It has to have some kind of thought process that looks at this in stages and looks at this a bit like I talked about the other day. God, I can't remember where we went with resolutions and setting goals. Like, there's nothing wrong with setting goals over this period of time at all. In fact, I completely welcome it if we're going to set goals over lockdown, because we've got a period of time we can say, right, this, bang, January, bang, February, Jan, and Feb into March, this is what I want. I can section off everything in very nice stages, and I can strategically, can use that word a lot, strategically look at what I can do in each of those sections of this time to get to what I want as the end result, or the recipe, right, as Mr. Robbins would put. So what is the end recipe? What is it I'm trying to get the outcome of this strategy? Again, if you try to go tactical, you'll be only planning for the next week or 2 weeks, or possibly only January, also what I've seen. So here's something, the difference between the two that I saw last year. People that plan for the longevity, or people who plan until the next announcement. So people who plan to the next announcement are only ever looking, or were only looking, in 3-week blocks. So anything they put into place tactically was to get them through the next 3 weeks to get them to the next announcement, because in their minds they wanted it to be over in the next 3 weeks. So I don't need to plan past that. So I don't need to be strategic with any of my behaviours past that, because everything's going to go back to normal. Do you remember that time when it was like, it's going to go back to normal in 3 weeks? Distant memory. However, that was how, if you do cast, you might have been somebody who did this as well. I mean, I say that, but I think I did. Like the initial 3 weeks, like, yeah, see you in 3 weeks, everybody. Didn't happen. However, the point I'm trying to make is, if you are approaching this lockdown now and tactically thinking, right, I only need to think about January, or if you're a parent, till the February half term, then you might encounter some challenges, because again, from working with people last year, those tactics did not work, because unfortunately the very reactive, very short-term approach to dealing with something doesn't apply to where we are right now from a psychological point of view, right? It just doesn't, unfortunately. As much as we say just get it for every day, true, arguably, but also to be really successful, it requires a big strategy right now. I'm going to use an example of a client who I spoke to today. I'm going to name them. It's not a bad thing, I'm just not going to name them. So this client really struggled last year in a similar situation with homeschooling and having to become many different things almost instantly. Housewife, psychologist, I think, cleaner, teacher, didn't get to be anything other than herself, right? And it took, like most people, a long time for her to find a balance where she could start to prioritise herself. And she'd been very tactical with her approach. It's very like, just get them through the next day of class, we'll stay up late, relax watching Netflix. I don't have time to myself, but only time is in the evenings, I'm going to stay up late, etc, etc, etc. It's all very tactical approach, like it's just going to be short term. And I spoke to her today, she said, I've trained 3 times already. I was like, wow. She said, well, she took everything that she learned and created a strategy already for this period of time, for this whole period of time, already in her head. She wasn't going to approach it in the same way. It took some different incentives for her to look at it differently this time. But instead of looking very short term, again, this time she went, and it was amazing. I was absolutely hands down. It was like, I think I was walking and I was like, gave her a little clap, like, oh, right? Because she decided that she could find a way to strategize the whole of this period of time, because it's not going to change. That's one of the things she said, just have to accept this isn't going to change. So rather than try and fight it like I did last time, like, things are going to keep changing, so I have to do a short-term tactic or reactive to something that's happening immediately to get through this, I had to look at why I was doing it, right? And that's important. The why is really important, okay? It's one of the things I put down. It's with strategies, there is usually a motivation behind it. So with strategies, the long-term plan, there is a motivation behind it. When I say motivation, I'm using that loosely, or I should say leverage. There's leverage behind it usually. Okay, so let me use an example again so you can help support you understand it. So if there's a leverage behind somebody looking at dealing with something long term, it means that either there's a risk of them feeling pain, or they've already experienced it. So stay with me. I'm going back to this previous client. She experienced a lot of pain last year. A lot of pain. I think for a very long time, all she had was 2 minutes to breathe in the back garden for about a month. Probably longer than that, actually, to be fair to her. So she experienced a lot of emotional pain from being all these things other than herself. And she pulled on that, right, this time, to ensure that the strategy she put in place this time helped her avoid that pain. Now, that usually to avoid being, we all like to not be in pain, right? So to avoid being in pain, she was, I'm going to use the word motivated again for ease, right, was motivated to put this in place quite quickly for this period of time. Now, tactically, again, going back, there's usually not as much leverage through other than just I need to get through this. So the leverage in terms of a tactic would be I just need to get through this today. I just need to get this sorted now. Or it just has to be very quick and get it done, right? There's not much leverage or motivation behind it. It's just an instantaneous kind of thought process, right? And this again is true, right? If I take that client, I don't even know how I could break down all the steps, right? I don't even break down all the steps that she does, because I spoke to another client after her who's in a very similar situation. She was like, oh my God, how does she manage that? That's incredible. I'd never be able to do that. And that was a really key point. And it's quite funny that I wrote this down and it's happened today. Strategies are very hard to copy from someone else. So let me explain that a little bit more. I'll use the same example because it's ease, right? So if I am somebody who is struggling at home to be all things at all time, I will create my own strategy, and it works well with my own kids, or my company accepts some flexibility, or my other half, my partner, supports what I'm doing, or might not, or all the rest of it. Okay, so there's multiple different factors that come into place when somebody puts a strategy in place, because it's very unique to them, and so therefore it's very hard, if not impossible, for it to be copied. Now other people try and copy it unsuccessfully, say, well, they're doing something, so I'm going to try and do what they're doing, but I just assume they're doing X, Y, Z. It's like seeing the end result of someone's meal, right? When I talked about a recipe, a strategy is a recipe. It's like seeing someone eat something and go, I'm going to make that, but I have no idea what's in it, or how to cook it, or what that is. But you know what? I'm going to make that meal. Now, unless you're Heather, let's be honest, she's pretty good. Unless you're Heather and you're a professional chef and you know what you're doing, it's highly unlikely you're going to get it exactly the same and taste as nice, right? So that strategy that someone has set up for themselves that is absolutely perfect, right? That gives them everything they're looking for. That strategy that you observe and go, God, they're doing that. How they managed to do that? Well, that's amazing. I'm going to do that. But when you haven't actually thought out your own steps, your own recipe for success, it ain't going to taste any better. In fact, it usually tastes pretty foul. Especially if I'm trying to copy someone else's cooking. Jesus Christ. Ugh. No. Things never do. Kate, never come around my house and clean it, because you'll never get in, and never let me cook for you while you're there. Right? And the point I'm making is that tactics are easy to copy, right? Think about it. Tactics are so easy to copy. How many people stayed up late watching Netflix? It wasn't like... I use that example as well because it was so common. Because it was a tactic to avoid going to bed because of poor sleep, or to see it switching off because they weren't dealing with issues. So tactically it's very, and everybody says, oh yeah, I want to watch that. Yeah, you're talking about watching that box. Yeah, I want to watch that too. It kind of spread like wildfire, right? Now, that is tactics are easy to copy because they are simple and they're not unique to the person, or they're not unique to you. So anybody can do anything tactically, right? With very little success, still give them reward, right? Because there's no leverage. But strategies are so hard to copy, which I suppose if you're copywriting your own strategy is fantastic. The thing is, it just takes that. That's why they are. There's so many steps, and they can be quite complex. The reward for getting strategy in place is massive, like absolutely huge. You can, right? This is the thing. I'm talking about this period of time now. This period of, let's just say this period of lockdown. People avoid saying it. Just say what it is. It is what it is, right? So there is nothing, like I said earlier, stopping somebody putting a whole strategy in place for this entire lockdown at all, right? Nothing. It will take some thinking. It will take some planning. It may take writing it down. It might take putting it on a digital device. It might take some conversations with people. Guess what though? If that's set up, it will see somebody through, and that's the thing about something like this. This is what worked. That successful client I spoke about earlier. That eventually, last year, she got a strategy in place. Granted, it took some time. She got that right. She had time to do it because then the other kids went back as well. She's like, right. So she got there. The thing is about that, which is fantastic about her deploying it straight away now, is because she knew to do it. She knew how to do it and what to do and what skills. I talked about skills yesterday when you're goal setting. What skills do you need to learn to make the strategy successful? Guess what? She'd learnt them because she'd used the strategy before for a longer period of time, so then she could use it again. And the thing is that, yes, she had a break in between. However, what is true about something like that you find works for you is that it can last for years, right? In different ways, in different stages. Tactics are very, very short term. Like, they can be even an hour or two. They're certainly not usually past a week. Tactics are very short term, right? Very short term. Strategies can be, yes, again, like you say, you could put a strategy in place for this lockdown, or you could put a strategy in place for this year. Here's the thing. Again, only if you're a member. You guys get the best, right? Now, you may have seen, if you're a member, you would have seen in our members page, my colleague Sam Honey mention, same time I call him that, they mention the letter to yourself. Now, it's interesting because clients are receiving the letters that they wrote 12 months ago to themselves before any of this occurred, right? Imagine that. Imagine what you've written yourself, not knowing anything's going to happen. This year, I'm going to Barbados every single month, and I'm going to be going out to eat every single day. Yeah, imagine if you some of the things people come back like, wow, it's blew my mind. And yet, there were so many things on those letters that were actually still successful, right? And why? Because even at the beginning of the year, there was something in place, like to put a strategy in place to make some things achievable throughout the year, right? Even with everything that happened. And if you are a member, please do it now for next year, because there ain't nothing better when you're talking to people and going, oh my God, I got a letter back from myself last year. It was crazy, right? You can only do this if you remember. I'm really sorry. But if you are, I suggest you do it and think about everything I've just talked about. Like, what could you strategize now? You can write to yourself in future going, guess what? You know that strategy you planned. How are you going to make that work for you? With the skills you're going to learn, the goals you're going to succeed. Imagine how much you could say to your future self that you managed to achieve because you thought of things more strategically rather than just instantly trying to get through it. Fascinating stuff. Love this stuff. Really do. So, look, I'm going to sip of my gin. Gone dry in the mouth from talking. I'm going to recap. Lovely. Right. Why is it important to know the difference, right? I think I've kind of covered it. You know, just now. I could conclude and say, look, tactics only get you out of short-term trouble, right? Strategies will get you out of long-term pain, right? And it's important to know the difference because, okay, I could argue that tactics have a place. Yeah, they do. If there's really no other choice, of course, tactics, it's better to do something than nothing, right, I guess. It's important to know the difference because the value or the reward you get out of one or the other is disproportionate, so much so. It can make a huge difference to you being successful in your goals or finding that you're always I'm always like treading water. I never quite make it move forward because everything they're putting in place is very tactical, not strategic, right? It can be strategies are complex, right? Complex, multiple stages, loads of different stages. The recipe idea, right? Loads of different things that need to be done. These things that need to be learned. Different elements need to combine together to make that a success for you. Tactics are usually kind of one step, and very in the moment, very reactive, not proactive, very much like, oh, don't do this, right? Strategies are large scale, right? The multiple levels may need you to work with different areas of your life to pull it all together, may need you to combine different conversations, different people. Tactics are very much like either just involve yourself or usually yourself, right? Tactics are very like, I'll just do this. I will just do this, right? Okay, to get by. Strategies usually involve some leverage, an emotion, a reason, right? Something that pulls somebody towards making this work for them and finding different ways to avoid, right, the long-term pain. Tactics just about how to get it done in the moment, right? Just get it done. I will get it done, right? And I do love this point. I do love it. Strategies are so hard to copy. Really well thought out, successful strategies for an individual are individual to them, and they may look like something that you may be able to do, like, oh, I'll give that a go, I'm sure I can do that. And how often do you find it doesn't work? Because it's not your strategy, it's somebody else's. Tactics can be copied left, right and centre. Tactics are easy to copy. Again, they don't give any more value or reward, they just deal with something in the moment. And finally, strategies can be long term. Again, I've talked about this lockdown as a period of time. You can deploy a strategy that works. They can last for years, right? In different ways and different measures. They teach you the skills I talked about yesterday. They teach you the learned skills that you need for goals that you don't get anywhere else. So always go for the strategy over the tactic. So think about, and if you are a member, think about what your strategies are like for this period of time. What are they? Because tomorrow I'm talking about diet strategies. Isn't that just funny? That just leads in. It's Thursday tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah, it is Thursday. No, I'm back in that. Things do not change for me. I'm going to remind myself, or be reminded of what day of the week it is every day this week. Crazy. Thursday tomorrow. There we go. I'm up to speed. It's all that gin I've been drinking. Already, lockdown. So, again, always, as always, if you have anything to add, please add it on the comments or message me direct. And if you're not a member, you can hit up the online COSR Online link in the comments and on Instagram. And also, just to throw it in, because I'm out as well. And we've only got, because it is Thursday, still reminding myself today, I've only got 48 hours before our challenge closes that starts on Monday. So we are going to close the door on Friday on this one. Just because we've got really limited amount of spots left right now, actually. We've had a bit of a McFlurry of people coming in to join us, which is fantastic. It just means that we haven't got many spots left. So if you're kind of on the hedge thinking, hedge, fence, hedge or fence, either way. If you're balanced on the precipice of deciding whether or not you want to come and do a challenge with us, I would say just give us a call. You won't regret it. And we'll definitely get you some strategies for the next 8 weeks for sure. So in the meantime, have a fantastic evening and I'll catch you later.